we will find out with about an hour into theory crafting how this is broken. And then this will be the deck that everybody's scared of on day one, and then we will never see it again.
Welcome to episode 501 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, in the evening. Coming to you from Morgan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North End, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Mage Set.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, May, SSJ5 Goku, and NY Kiwi. And by our patrons of the week, David Furgiel, I definitely said that wrong, and Lacey Geiger. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, bonus post-show content, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice. This always helps other people find the show. So, we had quite the week, at least I had quite the week, in that there have been a number of reveals. Actually got to do one on broadcast, which was interesting. Lorinda and I had not seen those cards until that moment. And yeah, got to cast some esports. And now that event 1 is out of the way, we also are going to get to cast the next playoffs, which is cool.
That's public now. That's exciting.
Well, we said it at the end of the broadcast on Sunday, so
okay. Well, then we're at minimum, you're putting the energy that you want into the world. So yeah. That's
Lorinda asked if they could say it and then said it. I don't exactly know how that's going to work, but yeah, playoffs. The new production group is great. I'll maybe get into that more when we actually do the tournament section.
Yeah, it looked great.
Yeah, loving the new graphics. Our caster dashboard was functional, which was nice, and it was just a good time. It was interesting, obviously since we didn't have TJ because he's running the sports program for Hearthstone. There were just 4 of us, which was like more work, but not. I don't know. I didn't feel it that terribly. I was a little worn out at the end of that because I tended to have like, at least for me specifically, I had no back-to-back castings the way a couple of people did. For me, it was like I had either the first or the second match, and then something in the middle, and then the very last match because I am in the United States and everyone else is in the UK. I mean, I said to do this. I was like,
yeah.
It doesn't make sense for there to be 2 UK people on the final match of any broadcast because they are 5 hours in the future. So, yeah, long days, but good times, and several good matchups that I'll get into later. But yeah, and then I think we've announced that theory crafting / theory casting is happening again, which is always fun. And there's something happening that we talked about on the broadcast that I do not understand. Have we gotten more information on the lizards versus turtles thing?
I think we'll talk about it in news.
Okay, all right.
It's in the thing. I think that's exactly what it is, but I don't think we've gotten much more information than that.
There were pictures of turtles and lizards, and I was like, what is happening?
I think they are literally racing turtles and lizards.
That's also what I think is happening.
Like actual turtles and lizards.
Which honestly, I'm here for it. If that's what's happening, I am absolutely here for it.
But anyway, yeah. So busy weekend mostly, and then this week I went to visit my grandma, which is great, but also exhausting. So yeah, here we are. How about you two?
Well, I also had a big week, both in and out of the game. So out of the game first, I guess. I think I finally converted my oldest into a card game player. So
just took
Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy got her. Yeah, Final Fantasy got her. So we went to I took her to her first pre-release on Saturday, and I actually went 3-1, which is the first time I've actually gotten into prizing in a pre-release, which is nice.
Cool.
And with probably one of the most aggressive decks I've ever built in a pre-release. Like, just aggro equipment hitting people in the face repeatedly.
So
You would
proud
be
of you.
you would be so proud of me. It was, I actually said to a few of my opponents, this is not the kind of deck I ever play.
Was there a Buster Sword present?
I wish, but I did
Ah.
have quite a bit of I had like a like Dark Knight's sword or something like that. I had like multiple legends that cared about equipment. It was very much like equip things and hit people in the face. And she also like didn't, I had been spending like the entire week leading up to that saying to her, like, we're not buying any collector boosters because they're extremely expensive and they're effectively
Excessive.
scratch off tickets for Nurse.
They are.
And then I kind of I'd seen some people in one of my groups who were pulling a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, okay, you know what? We're just going to get one. We're going to get one. And that's going to be it. And that's going to be our treat to ourselves.
One time.
Yeah.
One time.
So I buy one collector booster. And the first card that I open is a Surge Foil Borderless Portrait of Cloud, which I go look up and it's like $300.
Oh my
Wow.
God, Wicked! What on earth?
I know. This is I open up collector boosters otherwise, and it's like it's never happens. And I've been, and I'm like, oh God. Well, on the one hand, okay, we just hit a card. On the other hand, the kid is gonna think I'm a huge liar from now on because
Yeah.
I'm like telling her that we can't do this, and like, okay.
On the other hand, congrats
Yeah.
on introducing
Yeah.
your child to cardboard crack.
Yes, exactly. Like I've just turned her into a gambling addict. Exactly. I text Maureen. I'm like, I just pulled a $300 card. I'm going to sell it on the way out. And she's like, well, call around and look into pricing. I said, that's not how this works. This is going to drop by like 25% every day that it is sitting in my hand. I do not want it in my hand. So I ended up taking like $100 for it. I looked like yesterday, it was already like down like 150 that it was selling for. So it's like,
Sure.
I did the right thing. And to be fair, I just basically turned into another couple of collector boosters because I figure, okay, well, we'll get 3 for the price of 1. And the other ones were much less impressive. So at least I was able to prove out that like, this is not how things go. This is more the average experience. Do not do what I do. You cannot afford to do this.
Like, normally they're like $20 a booster. Were these more?
60.
Jesus.
I know. So yeah, everything for Final Fantasy is more expensive, but I figured I'll treat myself. It's a one-time thing. You know, it's a special thing. We're trying to get the kid into card games. We'll do it. So anyway, but we had a good time. But in Hearthstone, I have been struggling I was basically playing Arena all last week. And then this week I was trying to do my Legend Climb and I was struggling to find anything. And I was trying a few. I don't want to play in the aggro list. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I did it. I cosplayed as an aggro player for like 3 games or 4 games of the pre-release. I can't do it for like 100 games on ladder. I ended up picking up the Death Knight and I found a list that had Blob of Tar in it. And boy, oh boy, is that card what that deck needed. It just buys you so much time because it's 2 taunts and one of them has poisonous and the other one is also poisonous. Like one of the things that comes out of it is poisonous. So you get to remove a lot more stuff. And like there was one game literally where I just put Orbital Moon on with Reborn on a Blob of Tar and my opponent conceded on the spot. Like on turn 5. It was just like, that was it. Okay, I found the Blob of Tar lethal. We did it. Like, that's it. It's just absolutely like turn 4. And like, this is my usual screenshot of, and we say control games take a long time.
It was the exact thought that crossed my mind. Was like, see, control games don't take long. You just have to concede when you've actually lost.
Yeah.
Yes, not wait for 10 more turns.
Yeah, but the kill Jaden games take a long time, but I've kind of figured out how to win the kill Jaden mirror. You basically need to hold on to all of your removal as much as you can because you're never dying.
Oh yeah.
In the early game anyway. And then you basically just hold on to all of your removal and then just try to outlast them as long as you have removal to deal with their stuff and they don't know what they're doing, then you win those games.
Turbo Starship is a thing, right? It's just you kind of need the draw to
gets
align,
there.
right? Like, well, if you can like sort of force the clears such that they have to spend it on, like, you do that and you Exodar for pieces, right? And then you go again. But
but
a lot of times it's like, okay, who dirty rats what, and then who has how many clears when Kill Jaden happens.
There was one game that I had. This was against a priest, not against a Death Knight, where I had generated a Tortola out of the Starship, and then I just corpse explosioned and hit them for 26 in the face. And that was satisfying. I had a couple of games against the Druids, and the Druid can win that matchup, the spell damage Druid, but also generally you just sit there for 5 to 10 minutes watching them try to do math in their head. The game that I took a screenshot of was a 15-minute game where 11 minutes of it were on the Druid side. Just do it. I just imagine like the one GIF with all of the math symbols floating around their head, like for the entire game. Because I was at 86. And like you can get there, but that's a lot of incendious eruptions to get through 86 life. So, but I have been enjoying it. I've had a pretty good win rate. I think it's something like 80% or something like that with the deck. I'm like at Diamond 2 right now. But the games take a while, so I'm still not there. But I'd rather do that than play twice as many games with an aggro deck and be going at like 50-55%.
How about you, Megasa?
Well, I played a little bit more aggro priest, and I played a little bit of drunk paladin, just because it's doing really well. It's a deck that we covered a little while ago, and I feel like I know how to play. I picked it back up, and I was a little rusty, but having watched the Masters Tour, which I did mostly this weekend instead of playing, was very helpful. That was also part of what inspired me to pick up the Drunk Paladin again. They're very good at playing that, and they're very good at playing the Rogue, and just generally all the decks. But mostly, I've been obsessed this week, besides finishing up classes that I'm teaching. I decided that it would be good if we actually had videos on YouTube that had our faces and were more videos and not just the podcast on there. So by the way, if you're interested in that, it's now on YouTube. As well as making some YouTube shorts to kind of help with discoverability, show off some fun moments from the show. And I figured episode 500, such a fun episode last week, perfect opportunity to do it. Boy, is that a black hole of obsessionalism, though. Like, there's two main dangers here, right? Like, danger one, you spend way too long editing and making the thumbnail and tweaking your title and your description and all that stuff. Luckily, the podcast software we have makes the editing pretty easy, although you can always get more detailed. So I'm trying to just go with like a done is good attitude for it. But the shorts, you know, you're really trying to tweak it. You're trying to get the captions up there. And then once you put it out, it's really hard to like not just check the views constantly, which is definitely not healthy to keep doing that. Like, especially because it'll like go really slow and then really fast and then really slow. And then it might go fast again later. You just have to leave it and not look at it for 2 days, I think is really the winning move. But that has been a little difficult. So I had 4 of them. The 3 of them related to Hearthstone. One of them was not, mostly because I wanted a video that I could show people in my life who don't know Hearthstone. Because I'll say that I have this podcast, and I'll say, oh, I'm excited that we have episode 500. We're having this former host come back. It's really fun. They say, I want to see it. If I just send them to the episode, they're just like, what is happening? So I made a short that did not have Hearthstone in it and was just about sandwiches. Because, of course, in the hat episode, we had like multiple things about sandwiches that I could have picked. Like, I had options for sandwich related shorts.
A buffet, if you will.
A buffet. It was like Subway. You can just mix and match. You can pick whatever you want.
Does this make you a sandwich artist? Is that what's happening right now?
I made one mostly to be able to share with people. And then at first that was not doing as well. And I thought, okay, because it's not about Hearthstone. That makes sense. But then suddenly, like 2 hours ago, it just took off and now it has the most views. So I don't understand, but I'm glad it's doing well. So if you're interested in those, they are on YouTube. Hopefully I can find a sustainable way to do this because it is fun. But I need to actually also be able to play some Hearthstone in order to have this podcast.
Yeah. I guess this is also a good point for us to say, like, please go do like and subscribe. I mean, we have to say that now because we're on YouTube, I guess. But but also, like, if you are someone who listens on the podcast feed normally, it would actually help us out quite a bit if you were to go and just kind of give those videos some love, even if that's not the normal way that you consume them, just to kind of help tell the algorithm that we exist. So maybe they'll offer us up to other people, and then
It's so funny because like this has existed as like an auto export from Twitch for quite a while, like, you know, since the hat days and everything. And theoretically, as a podcast, we're supposed to always have been cross-pollinating, if you will, cross-promoting
Yeah, in theory, yeah.
In theory,
but
right? Like now finally doing it, it's just like, oh man, this feels so weird.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
It's a new era, you know. We've crossed the 500 episode mark, so now we're investigating new technology like YouTube. It's it's fine.
Definitely hasn't been around for 20 years.
No, stop that. I'm the one who's supposed to be making people feel old, not you.
I remember YouTube from 2005. I was in it from the very beginning. But I had a great time watching the Masters Tour. I'm having a great time with that. I had a great time with episode 500, and I'm been enjoying looking at the revealed cards. We have a very busy episode. We have like all of last week's stuff and all of this week's stuff to talk about.
Yep. So I guess we should just kind of get into news and start talking about all of that.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
The one big thing that happened just today, and we were recording this on Wednesday, for reference. So if you are listening to this on the weekend, you already know what happened, and we don't. But we did get a balanced teaser for the post Masters Tour balance changes. So the 4 things that are going to be adjusted for standard are going to be Magical Dollhouse, Divine Brew, Twisted Web Weaver, and Crystal Cove. And there's also going to be an additional wild nerf for Necrolord Draka, which I'm not sure what crimes that did in wild, but apparently did them. But I mean, we were basically hitting spell damage Druid. We're hitting Drunk Paladin again. We're hitting Rogue 2 ways. One for Cycle Rogue, and then one just to make sure that Pirate Rogue isn't also oppressive, I guess, once they've nerfed Cycle Rogue, because I don't see a lot of Crystal Coves right now, but I would expect that we probably will once we start going into a post-cycle. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be a post-cycle Rogue era. I don't know if just nerfing Webweaver is going to be enough to do it, but maybe we'll see. But
yeah, if I had to take a guess here, guess/hopes, right? It's Dollhouse to 2 mana, Webweaver to 2 mana, Crystal Cove to 4/4s. Kind of like how Caverns went from 5/5s to 4/4s. I think Cove might go from 5/5s to 4/4s. I say hopes because I like Cove. If they change it to 4 mana, that kills it. So I don't know, but 4 versus 5 could be a big deal breakpoint. Divine Brew, I am genuinely surprised because I sort of agree with Zacho on this, that sort of the reason why Drunk Paladin is back is because it's good against Druid and Rogue, and so if you're hitting Druid and Rogue, it's not as much of a problem. I have no idea how you nerf Divine Brew without obliterating the card.
I mean, you make it 2 mana. I don't know if that
which obliterates the card.
Okay, it's had its turn. It's had its time. You know,
you can hit the attack.
Just make it not give attack anymore.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah,
maybe. I mean, it's the fact that you can spam it that makes the light bots playable.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I guess that would be an out-of-the-box way to do it that I think would be fine, right? Is if they say you can apply... It just applies Divine Shield, and if something already has a Divine Shield, it doesn't do anything. I'd be okay with that. But I think going to 2 mana is just, like, taking it out
2
back.
mana feels like even if you did 2 mana and made it better, which maybe that's still, it's because you can spam it.
I mean, I don't even know what you do to Dollhouse either, right? I
mean, you make it 2 mana.
Does that
one's fine?
That much of a difference? It's not when you're playing it that's the problem. It's usually sitting on the board until you actually use it.
That deck has mana margins, right? Like being able to play this on 1 into Bottomless Toy Chest is a thing, or into Woodland.
That does mess up the curve.
Into Woodland Wonders, right? And also just times where you get it when you're in the middle of drawing things, and it's just a little harder to play. They could also keep it 1 mana and go from 3 durability to 2 durability.
That seems more likely to me. Just because then you have to be a little bit more careful about how you use it, and it's not just gonna be sticking around the whole game. So maybe that's how they handle it. I don't know. But
could be.
Yeah. The main things that have dodged nerfs here, the Pain Demon Hunter, and this might have come up a little bit late for their window.
I also think it's fine.
It's doing quite well right now. But its matchup spread may change with this. It's really good into Rogue. It is bad into Paladin, but it's really good into Rogue. How is it into Druid? It's fine into Druid.
Yeah, I sort of expect that with these hits, things get a bit slower again. I like, so
I'm not upset.
well, right, but to that end, I think still having the Demon Hunter to be like, okay, well, there's still a fast deck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you've still got the Priest and the
Priest is pretty fast. I got beat
it
by a
is.
Priest on like 5 today.
Yeah, but
so yeah,
as the
yeah.
Masters Tour will demonstrate, that deck is not as good as some of the others.
Yeah.
I do hope that these decks stick around, and these changes hopefully aren't so big that they kill the decks, because it would be sad. We just had these decks highlighted in the Masters Tour. People are excited to play them.
This always happens.
Yeah.
There is something to be said that a feature of this meta, at least the one that we're in right now, is very combo / math focused, right? I mean, both Cycle Rogue and Spell Damage Druid are very intricate decks that are Stormwind-esque, I guess I would say, is probably the best way to describe them. And like, you can have one of those that's the best deck. That's one of the best decks, and that's okay. When you have multiple, that makes it pretty rough when you're not somebody who is in for exactly that kind of experience when you're trying to climb. I think.
I mean, you definitely felt you felt sort of the absence of aggro, right, in this MT. There were a couple of the priests, and there was one hunter, and it was clear that those decks were just not on the level with the other decks in the event, with the primary ones being Paladin, Druid, Rogue, and Death Knight, right? Like, it's clear that the Control Decay is one of the best decks. Yeah, then on the other hand, you have this Druid, Paladin, Rogue sort of... I don't know if it's exactly rock, paper, scissors, but it's sort of like the Druid and the Rogue are doing their powerful sort of solitary kind of thing, and then Paladin is like, but what if Resistance Aura?
And Druid was like basically the 4th deck anyway. I mean, we're getting into tournaments now, but I mean, Druid was like not necessarily at the level of the other two. But we'll talk about a lot more about that in tournaments. I mean, that was what that's what I kept hearing your compatriots saying. So I'll defer to them. But yeah,
that was sort of a trend going in, like kind of getting to the event. I think people were high on it at first, and then sort of got to a point of like, actually, this might end up being the weakest of them. But anyway, other things.
Yeah. So we also do have an announcement of the community events that we've kind of touched on a little bit, including theory crafting, etc. So the Dinos versus Tortolans event that we have already referenced is going to be on June 13th, Friday, at 9:30 Pacific. There will be Twitch drops enabled. The Twitch drops with reptile animals does take on a little bit of a different meaning if you're not careful. But yeah, there apparently are going to be 4 lizards named Pangea, Garth, Morph, and Valentina against 3 Tortolans, which are turtles named Bone, Scooter, and Lenny. The competition consists of 3 events: racing, eating, and climbing. Yes, turtles can climb. And whichever reptile racer scores the most wins will be declared the victor. So TJ and Derek are casting this. I can think of no better pair to be casting an event like this than TJ and Derek, because they are exactly ludicrous enough to give the right kind of color for something like this. Yeah.
I'm so confused. It'll be interesting.
It sure will be something. I mean, it's different than anything we've seen before. I'll tell you that. We haven't had anything like this since like the Crab Rave. So
that was a while ago now. Turtles
that was a while
are actually
ago. Yeah.
faster than you might think. I know source. I had a therapist who had a turtle. I guess it was a tortoise. Turtles and tortoises are not quite the same thing. She would just bring it into the office every once in a while, and it would just be like roaming around on the ground. And if you like looked away, then suddenly it was next to you. Like, almost like a horror thing where it's like, oh, it's not moving that fast, and then you look away, and then jump scare, it's right next to you. It was a sweet animal in its way. You can't really pet it because it's a tortoise. I mean, you can, but why? I will be out of town this weekend, but I'm going to find a way to at least check in on this.
I mean, there will be a
Because-
VOD. So
And watch the VOD because, I mean, I have to at least see what's happening.
it's definitely going to be something worth watching in any event. And no animals will be harmed during the production. So
I want to know how they like get them to go in the right direction. Like how do you even do a race with these animals? I don't know.
I don't know. I
Just
mean,
have food? I don't know.
coaching, I guess. I don't know. I mean, if Mario Kart can make it work, why not Hearthstone? That's all I have to say. So, anyhow, there is also we've already mentioned theory crafting. Our own Edelweiss will be doing theory casting on the main channel. We hope to be. We haven't confirmed yet, but we hope to be invited back. I mean, we haven't played too much Priest, so hopefully they should invite us back to participate again, but we'll see. That's going to be on June 26th and 27th. June 26th will be EMEA, Latin America, and North America from 9 a.m. Pacific to 9 p.m. Pacific. There generally will be 2 shifts. If we are participating, we would be in the later one typically, which would be 3 p.m. Pacific or 6 p.m. Eastern to midnight Eastern or 9 p.m. Pacific. And then APAC players will be playing on June 27th, which is going to be 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. Pacific. So there's a little bit of a break there for the APAC players. And you will, as usual, 10 Lost City of Ungoro cards will need to be in each deck. 10 individual cards, 5 duplicates, whatever. There's no Reno to make that difficult or easy, thankfully. And you will be able to get Twitch drops for that as well. There will be 2 Lost City of Ungoro packs available if you link your Twitch and Battle.net accounts. And there will also be pre-purchase Mega Bundle codes given out by some of the participants. So you'll want to be in chat for those. On June 28th, there will be Raren's Rumble, where he will be having TCG creators from other TCGs participating in a Conquest format tournament. He will be paired up with Covert Go Blue, who's also a Magic streamer. Voxy will be participating along with Amy the Amazonian, which
Oh my goodness.
I by the way, I just saw there was a video of Voxy doing a Final Fantasy quiz that Amy the Amazonian had put together for her. That was incredibly unhinged and worth your time if you are interested in such thing.
Well, now hang on. Voxy and Amy, aren't those both Magic people?
They are, yeah.
But they put Raffle and Day 9 together. Day 9 hardly counts as a non-Hearthstone person. I feel like there should be a 1 Hearthstone to 1 non-Hearthstone ratio in each team.
I mean, Day 9's more of a Magic person. I mean, he just got back into Hearthstone, but he's more of a Magic person lately than he is a Hearthstone person.
Sure, but he's played the game. I don't know. Maybe Voxy counts as like a little bit of Hearthstone.
I mean, Voxy's well acquainted with Weasel Tunneler, so I mean, you know.
Sure.
And then Nihimnim and Simu are going to be the last pair. So that should be interesting. So that'll be a fun watch as well. I mean, Raren puts on a good show anyway. So that'll be fun to watch. And again, Twitch drops will be available for packs as well. July 1st to 8th will be the pre-release Tavern Brawl. You'll be able to open your packs early, build a deck, and compete in a heroic Tavern Brawl-esque challenge. For that, you'll use 2 tavern tickets to enter, 2 tavern tickets, 300 gold or 400 runestones, and you'll play till either 6 wins or 3 losses. The card pool for this will be Core, the event set, which is basically Bob and Avatar of Hearthstone or something, I think.
Yeah.
I assume there's like no point in having Hearth in because that's just weird.
Is Hearth even? I thought I don't even know if Hearth's still in or not.
Oh, you know what? That's right because he's gone. It's just that's in Arena, so that's why I've seen Hearth recently.
Okay, so core set, event set, Into the Emerald Dream, Embers of the World Tree mini set, and the Lost City of Ungoro. So just from this standard year, note that Creature of Madness and Hamul Rune Totem will be banned. And the card pool will also include a selection of cards from other sets to help support some of the new quests and cards from Lost City of Ungoro expansion. So Hunter will get access to Painted Canvasaur and Tyrannosaurus. Priest will get Nightshade Tea, Orbital Halo, and Silvermoon Brochure. Rogue will get Agency Espionage and Adaptive Amalgam. And Warlock will get Sweet and Snow Flurry and Sketch Artist. So you can use that to infer what you will from what we're going to see from these classes, because none of them have been revealed yet. So who knows what any of that means, but that's something that we will find out more in the coming days, why those are going to be helpful. I know I've seen Sidisi already doing a bunch of speculation, as he is wont to do, about the Hunter.
I understand Hamul being banned. I don't exactly understand Creature of Madness being banned. Maybe they just were like, well, this is kind of in every deck. So
it may, or maybe the pool's just too small. That also could be it. Like maybe the pool's too small and it's too good with giving them dark gifts, right?
Yeah, it's a really small Discover pool might be it. The Priest one, my speculation is that's giving a couple of spell schools.
Yeah,
with the Kindred, maybe.
Yeah, okay. I like that better than Pain Priest stuff again. Yeah, that's much better, much more of a better. As soon as I see Nightshade Tea, my brain starts going to places I don't want it to go for Priest. So,
those are just cheap spells, right?
Yeah, they're cheap spells that have spell schools on them. So yeah, maybe that's it. Okay. And Rogue's just gonna steal things, so whatever, fine. There also will be community days and drops during that time. So from July 1st to July 5th, you can get up to 10 packs for watching a Hearthstone stream. So first drop will be 3 Year of the Pegasus pack. Second drop will be 3 Into the Emerald Dream packs. And third drop will be 4 Lost City of Ungoro packs. We haven't figured out when that will happen, but I would presume we will probably set up some sort of a co-op stream at some point over that time. Stay tuned and we will let you know. We'll tell you closer to that, because I can't plan more than 1 week in advance, and I don't think any of you can either. So we will figure that out. We will figure that out when it gets closer, but you will know, don't worry. So that's all of that. And then there also were some Battleground stability fixes that went in a hot fix.
The latest one was the afternoon of June 8th. There was a lot of stability issues in Battlegrounds and performance issues, and so they did a couple of different hot fixes addressing that, and they say that they've been tracking issues since the June 8th deploy and see a marked improvement in performance since that patch.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
that was Sunday.
Hopefully, if you've been having issues in Battlegrounds, come back and give it a try. Should be more stable. And there had also been that some players had received fewer pack rewards from Arena than shown on their run rewards screen. If that happened to you, you should now have had missing packs granted. And then there'll be an upcoming hotfix patch with another grant done for players who run into that issue between when they did their first round and the permanent fix. So if that happens to you, that you don't get enough packs from your Arena run, just wait and you should get them.
That's it for news, but given that we had a Masters tour, we also have tournament news that we can talk about. So we get to play this.
It's the Grand Tournament!
Okay, so we had the first Masters tour of this year. They call it the Spring Championship. Okay, I guess.
I mean, you were there.
I thought it was Summer Championship, but I guess technically it's not summer yet.
It's not summer till June 21st.
Yeah, I always consider Memorial Day summer, but of course that is only a United States thing. So yes. Yeah,
you and my graduated high schooler both. Yes.
Look, it's when the summer feels start. The pool's open anyway. So. We've got an HS Guru link here, and of course you can always go to Oncrad's analysis over on X. I don't have X, so if you're like me, well...
I will put the screenshots, or actually what I can do is make like another tab of the show notes with like OCR the text, because they're very like dense screenshots on X. So,
but if you are not as much wanting to get into the weeds, but just want sort of a like, hey, what was sort of the makeup of this tournament and how were matches? So this is the first time in a while that we've had people coming from open qualifiers, and I hate to say it, but there were some noticeable differences in play. We saw a few big mistakes happen over the weekend, but day 1 and day 2, I say Gyu versus Gabby was a great way to kick off day 1, and then later on Gabby versus Insane. I know that's all one group, but it was sort of like the supposed group of death, I think. And those were quite good. Sunni versus Maxibon on day 2. I got to cast that one with Lorinda, and in particular the game where Maxi is on Warlock. This was the Mill Warlock, which was only something Maxi can play. Please, I beg of you, do not try to play this deck. It's like 30% on most data things, but Maxi makes it look incredible. He gets what we think is his win condition dirty ratted in the form of Mill, and then you realize, oh yeah, I guess if you dirty rat your opponent's Nomelia, you still have a win condition. Yeah, it was crazy. Definitely watch that one. First match of day 2. And then day 3, honestly, if you're going to like watch the whole thing of one day, watch day 3, because at that point, it's all the people who have made it out of groups, who, speaks to their quality for the most part. There was I want to say funny, mostly distasteful thing that happened day 2, where Gaboom made a mistake and then emoted his opponent repeatedly to try and get them to misplay. And so I think people were happy when Gaboom got eliminated in the top 8 on day 3. Chat was unkind to that behavior, which quite frankly, we were having to contain ourselves on broadcast because we were very disappointed in that unsportsmanlike conduct. But in terms of highlight matches on day 3, Gyu versus Maxi. That one, the Warlock got banned, and Maxi still won. And we had been saying kind of the whole weekend how Gyu's lineup, which has a warrior, it was Starship DK, Drunk Paladin, Pirate Rogue, and Hydration Warrior. This was sort of our like, oh wow, this is a great lineup into the typical, which is Cycle Rogue, Drunk Paladin, Spell Damage Druid, Starship DK. That is what I think majority of lineups were. Gyu was looking incredible, and somehow Maxi, unfavored, managed to just get there. And this is a thing that happens, right? You can have the lineup read, but someone either outperforms you, gets a little bit better draws, etc. But yeah, Maxi had a spectacular day up until the finals against Insane, which that match in particular, Insane swept, but it was still quite exciting. It was like mirror, and then the last one wasn't a mirror, but kind of a wild ride. Insane. If you can watch all of his matches from day 3, I mean, he was clearly. It's that thing that happens of the person who wins the event. It's a combination of they're having a great day in terms of their execution, like performance-wise, skill-wise, and also getting some good draws. We did a couple of interviews with Insane over the course of the day. We tried to interview players when they made it into the top 4, because that's where you qualify for Worlds. And then we also interviewed Insane as the winner. And he was very emotional. This is the first time he's ever qualified for the World Championship. I think first time he has won a Masters tour. And he worked very hard at it. It's always nice to see that emotion, right, on display.
Yeah. It was really nice to see the interviews with the players, get a sense of why they picked certain decks. Maxi talking about the Mill Warlock was very entertaining. You asked him, did you expect the Mill Warlock to draw a ban? And he said, I think people just don't want to ban a deck that is 20% on HS Guru.
Yep.
So he's like, so no, I didn't expect it to draw a ban. But if it's Maxi, then it works out pretty well most of the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is the kind of thing that I know we've had this conversation before about, like the stats versus like your experience with it. The stats are what the average experience is, and Maxi is not an average player. And if he's comfortable enough with that deck to win games with it, then he's going to win games with it. I also, and I know that this is something that got brought up in the casting a bunch too, but just like seeing some of the genuine emotion from some of these players, because we've had some of these interviews in the past, and maybe this is more in like the Grandmasters era where kind of the stakes were a little bit lower until Worlds or whatever, but it's just like, oh yeah, I drew well or whatever, and just kind of downplaying like the work that they put in and like how much skill is involved. And like there is quite a bit of skill, like even with open qualifiers with a different system, like this is still players that we kind of expect to see, give or take one or two, right? Even in a game with variance, there is a high amount of skill that is needed to play at this level consistently. And there is a tendency sometimes for these players to downplay it or, meme or whatever. But, seeing genuine emotion and seeing them, seeing what this means to them, like actually is really refreshing. It makes it easier to root for some of those people too.
Yeah.
Well, and it shows just one of the casters was talking about this consistency that the players, especially who make it into the top 8, show. And these are players who, many of whom are in the top 5 on ladder every month. You have to be so consistent to stay there. And then they've also have a bit of an advantage of many of these have been in more of the Masters tours that we've had over the past few years. There's been fewer opportunities to practice being in a tournament. And so I think for some of the players who came through the qualifiers, obviously to be able to go into the qualifiers, like you had to beat, 400 person qualifiers and do well in a tournament format. But you have maybe less experience being in a Masters tour, being on camera, thousands of people watching. I could see that affecting play or getting in your head about lineups. There was some discussion about go one level too deep in your lineup where you think, well, this is what I would bring, so everyone's going to bring that, so I need to bring what counters that, and it's like a mind game that you can go too far on, or just not bringing the decks that you're really comfortable in. I mean, Maxi proved that your comfort with the deck and how you want the matchups to play out can matter more than the stats.
There's one other match that I want to highlight, which is Fury Hunter versus Sunni. In particular, the Drunk Paladin versus Mage game. This is Protoss Mage. Sunni was the only one in the top 8 with it. Fury played really, really well around the particular amount of mana and amount of Protoss spells he expected Sunni to have. And ultimately, it was for naught because of a constructed pylons that Sunni was sitting on. But I think it just shows how, like, just because something doesn't pan out the way you want it to doesn't mean that you can't play really, really well against, the information you have. And I thought that was a real demonstration of how much these players are thinking about, right, constantly in terms of executing, like, really, really little details. So yeah, that was a great match.
The timing of how people thought about Druid and like when they would play the Resistance Aura, not playing it too early, but waiting until it's the turn where they really want to play Sleep Under the Stars, and now that they can like do nothing because you played the Resistance Aura for 2 turns. Really a mastery not only of their own deck, but of the opponent's decks.
Yeah. If you want, like, little free coaching stuff, right? Just watch a Masters tour, take note of the details of how they play certain things. You'll certainly see, especially if you take an approach of, what would I do here? How is that completely different from what just happened? We try as casters to explain why a thing is being done. And look, sometimes we disagree with what the players do, usually on days 1 and 2. But we are proven right or wrong in those senses. Yeah, really, really great event. Glad we were able to start off quite well. I thought production was well above last year. We're working with a new group that you would never know that this was their first time running a Hearthstone event. It
looked great.
I mean, yeah. Especially compared to last year, where sometimes you wouldn't know that it wasn't their first time running a Hearthstone event.
I know.
So yeah, they did a great job. Yeah.
There was little things like a lot of the players on the early days had a highlight where they would explain a deck that they liked, like a little deck-splanations, and some of them I'm going, that's a really good little deck-splanations.
Now, there's one issue I had with those, which is that if you look at the players explaining certain decks and what they brought, they did not match up because these videos were done before deck submissions were finalized. So you had like Pizza explained the Hydration Warrior, which he didn't end up bringing. Wish he had, because I think those lineups did better. Both the Warrior lineups ended up in the top 8.
I mean, it would have been interesting to see Pizza try to explain Aviana Druid. That would have been fun. That would have been fun, but yeah.
Pocket explained a deck that was not in his lineup. Yeah, I
Like
think
Starship Warlock or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but he did a good job with it.
He did.
It was a good
Yeah.
explanation
Look,
of Starship
They're
Warlock.
good players.
Yeah.
And then also, if it wasn't clear that we are now under the marketing budget, we got to promote the new expansion. And I would not be surprised if that trend continues, where we are, lined up to promote a subsequent release. That at least for the big events, right? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that lines up for Winter and World Championship. I guess World Championship, it might be a mini set, not a set, but can't say for sure. But because I don't know when those sets are coming.
Maybe you can show some cosmetics or something.
Maybe. But yeah, really, really good time. Check out those matches if you can, but especially day 3. And I'm excited to continue with Hearthstone esports. I don't want to get too hopeful, but I'm starting to feel like, oh, I may actually get to feel legitimate in telling people like that my career is, I'm an esports caster. Like,
I mean, at least you'll have more opportunities to do, twice as many opportunities with playoffs, right? I mean, you're going to have twice as many gigs as you had before, at least.
It's 2 more this year, right? It's the next playoffs and then it's the last chance. They didn't want to start with the first broadcast of the year and of this new everything being a playoffs thing and not a Masters tour, which I do kind of get.
Well, I mean, there's just a lot of people that you have to wrangle. People who are going to be in the Masters tour, at least, or most of them will have been used to working with production before.
Right. And I expect that playoffs will be sort of lower production value. I don't know, but that I would expect that. I'm not sure if that will always mean that we skip the first one of the year, or if this is just like, hey, we're trying a new thing. We want our first event to be an MT and for it to go off well. But then next year we get to keep on the trend of getting to do playoffs. That would be great. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed that they like how things go this year, and then we get some amount of expansion next year. That would be awesome, because for the longest time I was like, is this the year where Worlds was Raven and Soddle saying goodbye to Hearthstone esports? Like,
yeah, it would be nice to not know to know that at least we're likely to have esports the following year, and like maybe next year, like, hey, maybe there's even a LAN at some point. Like, who knows? Like,
I wouldn't hold my breath, but
I know, but maybe we could get Hearthstone and DreamHack again. Who knows? But speaking of promoting the next set, we got a whole bunch of cards that we didn't get a whole lot of chance to talk about. So we're gonna do that right now.
All right, so over the past 2 weeks almost at this point, there have been a lot of reveals for the Lost City of Ngoro. And obviously we didn't talk about any of that last week because we had a very important anniversary to celebrate. So this week we are catching up. We were only going to talk about the legendary neutrals in detail, but others will come up as we're talking about class sets. And then we'll be talking about Mage, Shaman, Druid, and Demon Hunter. Not necessarily every single card, but the packages as a whole and cards that stand out to us from those packages. And then we'll keep doing that next week and have our superlatives and things once we've had a chance to see them more. But we can start with City Chief Esho. Is a neutral legendary 6-mana 5/7 battle cry. If every minion in your deck shares a minion type, give your other minions +2/+2 wherever they are. So instead of a menagerie payoff, we have a payoff for any type of minion deck, which makes sense in a set with Kindred where they're trying to encourage minion types without necessarily limiting that to specifically elementals or specifically beasts. And notably, this is not if every minion in your deck started out sharing a minion type. This is when you play City Chief Esho. So you could have had minions that don't share that type in your deck, but when you play her is when it matters. And she'll
Or
buff
if your deck
all
is
minions.
empty, I guess.
Or if your deck is empty.
Because we've all seen, we all saw the Kazakhstan movie, and we all know how it ended. So I mean, I don't think that that's likely the way that you're going to do this, but also this doesn't say once per game. So if Rogue heads up with some sort of a Kindred deck, then potentially this could get Shadow Stepped and done over and over again, potentially.
And in terms of the dual tag minions, like you can't chain them. You can't be like, I have a beast undead, and then I have like a undead pirate, and then I have a, like that would count for 2 undead, but then if you also have like just a beast, doesn't count, right? All of them have to share one tag.
Yeah. So 6 is a little late. Now, I think this is still good as just a neutral Savage Roar. I mean, FA1.
We play Menagerie Mug or Menagerie Jug, right?
For sure.
And that's 5. So
yeah,
this is like Menagerie Big Gulp is what this is.
I'm thinking in terms of the fact that it buffs things besides the board. I feel like that is bonus. I think a lot of the time you're primarily going to play this because you have things in play to get boosted, and then it's sort of like, well, if that gets cleared, you've also gotten to buff your other stuff. I like this one. You get to put it in a lot of stuff, and it's not just like elementals or pirates or whatever. Like this idea of sort of kindred, so that you can make these things that apply to all the different minion types and be useful for all the different minion type decks, I think is a good direction. I'm looking at this primarily as a neutral board-wide buff of stuff in play, and less about the stuff in your deck.
On the one hand, you can play her with things of other minion types and just hope that you draw them beforehand, but I don't think we're going to get this, or I think it's less likely that we get this with a sort of Kazakhstan thing where Druid just like didn't run minions, because for Esha you need minions for her to be good.
Now, I assume they must still have a type, right? Like if you have a deck of nothing that has a minion type, that doesn't count.
No, I don't think so, because that's not a minion type. That's the absence of a minion type. So yeah, I don't think that would count. I think you're talking about like everything being dragons or everything being undead or whatever it happens to be. But they can have more than one and they can share it, but they can't have nothing. If you have anything that doesn't have a tag on the bottom, then that's going to break this. I don't know if there's any way to shuffle minions into your opponent's deck right now. Repackage doesn't, because that shuffles a spell. I don't know that this is going to be the kind of thing that you would want to turn off that badly, but maybe. I don't know. I mean, we've seen that with Plagues and Reno in the past, right? So
yeah, I don't think it's that kind of thing. I was just considering a situation where like Imbue Druid runs, nothing with minion types, but can run this.
Yeah. I guess if you're generating minions, it would buff anything that you already have in your hand or deck, but it wouldn't buff future generated minions either, because that's how wherever they are works. It doesn't because those aren't anywhere yet, so those wouldn't get buffed, in the future.
This is like a very philosophical conversation. No type is just the absence of a type. It's not the same as a type, and things that are nowhere yet can't be buffed. Yeah, it doesn't say for the rest of the game, right? It says like minions that exist now. I don't think this is the same deck, but theoretically it's always active after Kill Jaden.
That's true.
Yep, it sure is. So you do get Kill Jaden, because I've played a couple of Kill Jadens over the past week. Kill Jaden does give you a demon who discovers a legendary minion and gives it a dark gift. Sure. So you could generate this off of that and then buff everything. I mean, you could also just wait a turn with Kill Jaden and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know at that point, like getting just an extra +2/+2 is a lot of work for that, but it would work. Yes.
It's a lot of work to Kill Jaden just to turn on a Savage Roar. Yeah. But I think it might be something that we do as like a little extra damage if we're playing Kill Jaden anyway, maybe.
I guess the question is, are those minions actually in your deck? Like, are the portal minions in your deck or not?
They are.
Right? They are? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I misspoke before. Like, you can't do it with an empty deck. You would have to do it with exactly one minion in your deck with a minion type in order for it to guarantee go off if you were going to do that. Because if you have no minions in your deck, then that wouldn't satisfy the requirement, I don't think.
Well, right, but I guess my question was like, so the imbue neutrals do not have a minion type. If you have, Malorn, who's a beast, I assume that means, well, you have no minion type and a minion type, so it doesn't work. But if you don't have Malorn, and it's only things with no minion type, I think that is
I don't
still
think that counts.
off, right?
Yeah.
But if you did say, I don't think this would be worth it, but if you took out the imbue minions from Druid and was just like, well, I'm just going to upgrade with spells and the only minions in my deck are beasts, that would work.
That would work because it just matters. Everything in the deck has to have a tag on it that's the same.
Yeah.
And no tag is not a tag.
But there, especially more than everything else, it would be about buffing the stuff you have in play. And
right, the stuff in play doesn't need
which
to be
is already
that minion
big
type. Yeah.
And,
which is already big enough in Imbue Druid as it is. So yeah.
And Druid is getting flood things anyway and flood payoffs. So
we also have kind of along the same sort of kindred vein, we have a neutral legendary Torga, 4 mana 2/7 undead beast, battle cry, draw a kindred card and another card that activates it. This makes it easier to have a smaller kindred package in your deck. Even gives you a reason to have it smaller so you can tutor it better.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think beast is going to be a common one, so it's cool that this counts for a common tribe and another common in some classes tribe in undead. So you could potentially be triggering that kindred at the same time as you play this. But you could also run it in a deck that has kindred spells.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be minions. So you could do that and get 2 spells, and that would be pretty good too in the decks that want it. Spells could be a little bit more tricky depending on what spells they are, because you might get something that you might not want to play right away if it's a reactive spell. But that is a use case. I mean, it's also just it's also 4 mana draw 2. Which is general with a big butt, which is probably good enough. If you're running any kindred stuff, 4 mana draw 2 is fine, right? We ran Protoss decks to get 4 mana draw 2.
Yeah. I mean, Chrono Boost, okay, yes, charge, but it was a 3/4. I think. Yeah. 2/7.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still pretty nice.
2/7 draw 2 seems fine, playable. Let's go. That's all you really need to read. I mean, but it does pay you off for actually doing the kindred thing, and then it's nice that it gives you both the kindred card and something to play the turn before it, so that you can actually get the value out of it together. Because if it just drew you a kindred card and you had to wait around for however many turns to find something to proc it, that would be a lot worse.
We had mentioned Elise the Navigator, but we didn't see what she had for locations. So Elise the Navigator, to remind ourselves, she is a 4 mana 3/5 neutral legendary with Battlecry. If your deck started with 10 cards of different costs, craft a custom location. So this one is about what your deck started with. That could be 0 through 9 or 1 through 10. But it could also be if you have Ceaseless Expanse in your deck, that counts as its own thing because it's the only thing that costs 125. Now, those locations, you can craft it 1 cost, 5 cost, or 10 cost. That's the first thing that you pick. And then there are 7 options that you can essentially discover, although it's not technically a discover. 2 out of 7 options. So you'll have 2 discovers, just like works with Ignis, for example. All of the locations have 3 durability. We had thought, oh, maybe they'll have different durability. They all have 3 durability, but the power of the things that you're discovering obviously changes a lot. So the 7 things, just to go through them really quick. Bursting Geyser does damage to all enemies, including face. So it starts at 3, then 5, then 10. Shining Moonlight gives your next spell either 1, 2, or 4 spell damage. Runic Inscription discovers a spell that costs either 1, 4, or 7 less. Snapping Plants gives your characters +1 attack this turn. That's your hero and your entire board. Or it could give +2 or +4 attack. Nesting Grounds summons a 2/1 raptor with rush, or 3 2/1 raptors, or 6 2/1 raptors. Lava Stream is gain 3, 6, or 12 armor. and Radiant Crystals summons a 1/1 copy of a friendly minion or a 5/5 or a 10/10 copy of a friendly minion. And remember, you're doing 2 of those. And so because you're getting 2 discovers out of this, you have a pretty good shot of hitting whatever you want to hit. If you've played a lot of Mixologist recently, like I have, then you know that you can often get what you want, but not always. But these
And
I'm not
sure if you said it or not, but Bursting Geyser is the only one that's a death rattle. So it's only once the location goes away, then it's going to do 3, 5, or 10 damage. Everything else is on activation.
Thank you. Yeah, the fact that the Bursting Geyser is a death rattle is important. Everything else is on activation. And I mean, I think a lot of different decks can take something from this. You know, the spell damage druid, your next spell has spell damage is good. Discover a spell, it costs less, could be good for that as well. Or you summon a copy of a spell damage minion, right? Like Radiant Crystals is also a good hit for that deck.
Yeah.
Summon Raptors with Rush could be a good hit if you're gonna die. Like there's lots of good hits for that deck.
This card is terrifying.
Also, remember that Nesting Grounds makes 2/1s when we get to Demon Hunter. That's also important.
Yeah. I don't know if this makes it there. I think they'll have an easy enough time completing that.
We'll see.
Already.
I'm just pointing out foreshadowing is all. So
my concern is primarily the spell damage druid. Like, because it's funny, like, you know, they're nerfing it now, and then Elise will happen, and there will be times where Elise gives, because you pick one cost location most times in that deck, you'll get spell damage +1 and summon a copy, and it will be activate for spell damage and a copy of Aulonius. And
does that deck have a curve that supports Elise is the question. You do have Sleep Under the Stars and Aulonius to cover the high cost stuff, but I don't know what else you have that's, because a lot of that it's very low curve, right?
You've got 0 with Innervate.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, because I'm more worried about like 5, 5, 6, and 9, right? Because like I know there's a lot of stuff from like 0 through 4. You have 7 and 8 covered.
Woodland.
I don't know if you have.
Woodland is 5.
Oh, it's 5. Okay, yeah. So that's 6, and then 8 and 9 is 7 and 8. So you would just need like a Ceaseless Expanse and like something else,
or like one giant. You could do the Location Giant. You could do a Playhouse Giant.
Yeah, like I don't know how it happens, but I think it happens not hard enough to prevent people from saying, hey, a decent amount of the time I get either spell damage or make a copy of a minion, and you don't care how big the copy is because it's Aulonius.
And maybe they just like run Ysera to get a 9 or something, and that's good enough, or who knows.
Run Ysera, she could give you more mana if it goes late. And I mean, other decks have a lot here too, and you can choose whether you're taking the 1, 5, or 10 like during the game, right? So if you're facing something with a ton of armor, you're going to need to go late, then you could pick 10 and then give your characters +4 attack this turn, and then they can never let you have a board ever, because if they do, you're going to do so much damage. You know, and then maybe it also has Bursting Geyser, so that after you use it, it does 10 damage additionally to them. So I think it is definitely scariest with spell damage druid. This also kind of helps explain why they would nerf spell damage druid, although maybe that's not enough. We'll find out. But there's a lot of flexibility here.
Yeah, the Bursting Geyser it's going to take 5 turns before that happens.
Yeah, I'm like a little surprised they didn't let Bursting Geyser be activation but lower numbers or something.
Yeah, because 5 turns is a long time.
Yeah.
For any of them, right? Like if like the 1 mana one was 1 activation, then fine. Then it can do 3 damage when you press it, fine. But the fact that even the 1 mana one is going to take 5 turns before you see that death rattle, I do wonder how often you actually take that.
That's a good point. And you don't necessarily want, if you're Warlock, you can get it faster with Consume, but do you really want to get it? Because then you have less of the other effect.
Yeah.
Like, is Bursting Geyser really good enough?
Sometimes you just have a Consume lying around too that you just need to use, right? Like you don't really care what the location is, you just need the 8 health anyway, and the game's not going that much longer. So yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, so that's Elise the Navigator. There are, of course, a lot of other neutral minions. We'll call out some of them as we go. Some things will get mentioned either in superlatives or because they relate to other classes.
We will be talking about these cards for the next month. Don't you worry. Like, if we don't cover everything today, we will get there at some point.
So, I do want to make like one really quick clarification for a card that confused everyone when they first saw it. Crystal Tender says Battlecry gain empty mana crystals until both players have the same mana. This doesn't like put you ahead if you're on the coin. Just that's like everyone's first reaction, and then you think about it. No, it doesn't. All right. So moving on to Mage. Mage had a large package relating to Discover, and we'll start with the quest there. So it has a quest, the Forbidden Sequence. All the quests are 1-mana spells that start in your mulligan. You can toss them. If you haven't played with quests, because you're a newer player, quests start in your mulligan all the time, but you can toss them if you don't want them on turn 1, but usually you want them on turn 1. They have a condition that doesn't start going until you play it. So the Forbidden Sequence says quest, discover 8 cards. The reward is the Origin Stone. The Origin Stone is a 3-mana 0/8 weapon. After you discover a card, this weapon plays the other options, lose 1 durability. So up to 8 times it will play other options after you discover something. There's a lot of cards that discover things or that give you a benefit for having discovered things, like after you discover a card, reduce its cost by 1, or if you've summon a random 2-cost minion, if you've discovered this turn, summon a random 4-cost instead, or Story of the Waygate, 2 mana, reduce the cost of cards in your hand that didn't start in your deck by 1. The flavor text here is really good. It's like someone telling the story of the Waygate, and it says, and then a lot of people got mad. If you don't get
Accurate.
that reference,
Yeah.
you weren't playing back then, or you've never played Wild. A lot of people got mad about the original Waygate quest. I'll just put it that way. Scrappy Scavenger, Battlecry, discover a card with cost equal to your remaining mana crystals. So that's kind of working like the Priest Imbue now. Relic of Kings, discover a spell from any class that costs 8 or more. It costs 1. The main reason you'd have that, I think, is after you've completed the quest, you essentially get all 3.
My genuine feelings on all this is I don't feel like Mage was in a good enough position going into this set to not get cards. Like,
or it got all the cards.
No, you know, this is. I'm very underwhelmed by the Forbidden Sequence, and then of course they had to give it, all this support in like the majority of the Mage cards. They'll probably be great in Arena, a lot of them, right? Because Discover is good in Arena. Story of the Waygate could live up to its flavor text just because cost reduction is good. And maybe there will be something where like you expect to get there with cards that didn't start in your deck and cost reduction is powerful enough there. But the Mage cards I'm excited about there are the Elementals and basically nothing else, and there's only 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at expensive spells. I suppose the Relic of Kings says from any class. You can hit Supernova, Tsunami, Yogg in the Box, the Galactic Projection Orb, Sea Shanty, Everything Must Go, or Snatch and Grab, or Quasar. Oh my god.
God.
Quasar is like a real problem in that if you've already got the quest off, because if you see it, you have to pick it, right? Because the others will go off. So you have to put it in your hand and then not play it. Typhoon, Nebula, Table Flip, Wheel of Death, Crane Game, Black Hole.
Well, no matter whether you pick it or not, it doesn't cast, right? You get them, or does Forbidden Sequence cast them? It doesn't get them into your hand?
It casts. It plays
Yeah, it's
them.
going to cast them immediately.
Okay. All right. So that's a little different than what I was thinking. Yeah. I see what you're saying.
That could also backfire on you.
Yeah.
If you play that and then one of the choices is Wheel of Death and you don't want to play the other ones right now, well, you kind of are if you don't want Wheel of Death going off right now.
Right. Yeah. I feel like in some ways raises it in my estimations because you get to play the things right away. Yeah. And in other ways is like worse. because you're forced into things.
No, you know what's going to happen? We're finally going to see Dwarf Planet played. That's what's going to happen.
Oh,
That's
God,
the way you get That's
why?
the way you get Dwarf Planet to actually see play, by forcing people to cast it against their will.
So maybe we're not really doing Relics of Kings, but we're doing, there's a lot of Discover in Mage, and you're just kind of getting a bit of a turbo, like it's a faster deck, but then if you don't win, you just get a bit of a turbocharge on it, maybe.
I mean, you also have like you have the neutral dark gift minions, right? And then you're just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna play this and get 2 minions, right? Like, that's not nothing.
In Arena.
Does it ever go in Protoss Mage, some of this, like discount everything that didn't, like some of these, not necessarily the quest itself, but things like reduce the cost of cards in your hand that didn't start in your deck by 1, or like deal 3 damage to a minion, cost 0 if you've discovered this turn. Maybe
the only
not that
thing you
one,
care
but...
about discounting in that deck is the Colossus, and it's not going to discount that.
Yeah, I guess, let me put it this way. I think people will try the quest and abandon it pretty quickly when they realize that the reward is not very good. Storage Scuffle is good, right? Deal 3 damage to a minion, cost 0 if you've discovered this turn. Like 0 mana, deal 3 damage to a minion is good. There's enough Discover that you just want to run, like Glyph, like the location, right? That's going to be a good card. Story of the Waygate, yeah, I could see that making its way maybe into a protest deck or something, because you want to discover all these other things, and like, and even if you don't run it, right? Maybe you discover a Story of the Waygate, and you're like, well, I've got all these generated things. Let me reduce them, but I don't see, in terms of competitive parts of Ladder, I don't see Forbidden Sequence lasting more than a week.
How does this work with something like Marin?
I mean, it works how you think it would.
Well, so like you would pick the Golden Cobalt every time, right? Because you don't want it to. I mean, unless you really don't like your hand.
No, but you would just get a 6/6 taunt. Battle cries don't happen.
No. I'm saying you would pick that to go in your hand, and then everything else would happen.
Oh,
right? You draw 3. You draw 3. You'd draw a card and fill your hand with it, and then you would basically get all 3 legendaries that you were offered off of because then the next one would discover also off the crown.
I feel like it would actually be bad, right? Because you don't get to pick the order. So you could fill your hand, burn 3 cards, and then just get something in play and nothing to your hand.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing this, you don't care if the world burns anyway. I don't know. I'm not suggesting that this is competitively viable. And Goku in chat is saying that Marin doesn't discover, which is, it's probably like choose, right? It doesn't say that. So that I'm probably wrong. Anyway,
which I think that's actually better, right? Because then it just happens for the crowd, which is fine.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Mage cards. Now, everything I'm about to say, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying this popped into my head necessarily. So we have ways to get cheap things. We can make sure that we get a 0 cost, for example, with Scrappy Scavenger, because Scrappy Scavenger says Battlecry, discover a card with a cost equal to your remaining mana crystals. So you could get cheap things. And then we have a couple things that care about casting a lot of spells in a turn, which are things that are not seeing play, namely Archmage Antonitis or Archwing Pilot. If you could get a lot of really cheap spells, play them all at once. This is not necessarily the quest, right? This is just like, we have ways to discount spells now and discover more cheap ones, and then we just have a lot of spells in our hand. Is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to argue that this is good, because I mean, this is going to be. I hope it's not, because this is Burgle Rogue adjacent, and we all know how I feel about that, right? So that's something that I don't really want this to be good, but I mean, you also need to have these things for people who are not playing this game competitively.
I figured it out.
Yeah.
Spell Mage.
Oh yeah.
I guess
because you get to use Unearthed Artifacts, right, which is a spell that summons a minion. Spot the Difference just fills your board. Discover a 3-cost minion to summon. If your deck has no minions, repeat this. Well, you just summon 6 minions. So Yeah.
And Pocket Dimension too. Discover a spell, repeat until you see one for the second time.
I mean,
like
that just fills your hand.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's also casting the other two every time.
Well, yeah.
Right?
I mean, there's durability on the weapon, right? So
I mean, so I mean, you blow through all eight charges
Yeah.
not necessarily, but you know, I mean, it's not nothing.
I mean, and then having Relic of Kings as a somewhat less volatile than Yogg-Box top end.
Yeah.
That is where it starts to come into focus for me. Like, okay, I could see this in a spell mage where like you hidden objects, discover a secret, you get to cast all 3 secrets. That's pretty
Mhm.
cool.
Is going to tilt me if that's a thing.
Oh,
but
yeah,
people
me
will
too.
enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, Tide Pools also is pretty good with that.
And
right? Because that's just going to be 2 more spells that you get to cast every time that you cast a spell, and then the spell that you're casting is probably discovering also.
So, to be clear, the Origin Stone, you don't just get it equipped when you finish the quest, right? It goes to your hand?
It goes to your hand.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think that makes it better. It's like it's only 3 to play,
Yeah.
but then you get to choose like, okay,
You choose when you want it to go off. Yeah.
right. I have shifted from this is just not going to make it to okay, if this is good enough with Spell Mage, this is how you do Spell Mage now. Now, again, I don't know if the quest makes it into Spell Mage, but I could see Spell Mage sort of like using certainly some of these cards.
Yeah.
And I think there's a world where it gives you a little bit extra oomph in a Spell Mage. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, the Mage cards I'm excited about are the Elementals. Full stop.
Yes. So why don't you tell us about the elementals?
So there's just 2 of them. Windswept Page Turner, 4 mana, 4/5 elemental. After you summon an elemental, deal 3 damage to a random enemy. Hey,
That
it's
seems
an
good.
elemental Arcwing. Yeah. I like this. It's solid stats. I mean, Showwood Yeti, but like, you know, decent kind of thing where you can like run it out and they must deal with it, or you can save it in your hand for a big turn. You know, I'm reminded of Mecha Shark.
Yeah, that was where my head was going to, and that was 3 damage dealt like arcane missiles. This
Right.
is just 3 damage all at once to one target.
Right. So, yeah, I think it is better to play on curve than Mecha Shark was, right? And for that, a little bit harder to, do in a combo sort of turn. But like, you can get a lot of just little dudes, right? Like little 1-cost elementals and play them. So, I'm excited for Mage to have an elemental deck that might not be as reliant on Saroon, because Saroon costs 6 and like, requires you to have a bunch of elementals left in your deck to gain that spell damage and then spells to use with them. So yeah, big fan of Windswept Page Turner. And then the other one I think is just solid. Conjured Bookkeeper, 3 mana, 2/2 elemental. Death Rattle, which is a bummer, but Death Rattle, draw a spell, Kindred, summon a copy of this. So you get 3 mana, 4/4 in stats, right? Over a pair of 2/2s that both have this Death Rattle of draw a spell. It's cool because you can sort of guarantee that you get your fire spells, especially the one that discounts for every elemental you have in play. And this counts as there's just so many angles to this card, right? There's the fact that it is drawing you spells, which may be fire spells. There's the fact that it summons a copy of itself. So if you have played Saroon, that's +2 spell damage. And
you're probably not running that many spells in the deck to begin with because you're playing elementals.
So I don't know if this is ever worth it, but say you run or just generate and play a Blasteroid, then you get to do this and guaranteed draw some of those discounted fire spells.
I don't know that we necessarily do this, but we have a card from the mini set that nobody really noticed came through, called Inferno Herald. It's a 4 mana 3/6 elemental. After you cast a fire spell, get a random elemental and reduce its cost by 3.
I noticed.
Yes, you noticed.
I tried
Otherwise, notice. This is kind of like how in the Vicious Syndicate podcast back when Hat was on it, there would be decks and Zaka would be like, no one cares about this deck. And Hat would be like, I care about this deck. It would be like Naga Priest or something. And Zaka would be like, As I said, no one cares about this stuff. So it was like Hat and me and World 8. A few other people in the Discord. So yeah, Infernal Herald, after you cast a fire spell, get a random elemental and reduce its cost by 3. That is better with the Windswept page turner. After you summon elemental, deal 3 damage to random enemy, because a lot of elementals are cheap.
Yep.
So if you like stick one of those, or you have cheap fire spells from like the one that discounts from elementals being out, or in a bit of a magical Christmas land, we're playing Supernova, or we played Blasteroid.
I think Blasteroid is like not outside the realm of possibility. It was a little not quite able to keep up with things right now, but I think there's a world where, with the addition of these 2 additional cards, like you have now 2 4-cost things that you can jam on 4 and be like, you must deal with this or scary things are going to happen. And then also the fact that, Conjured Bookkeeper could draw those discounted fire spells. The draw package starts to come together in a big way.
Yeah, and you could have the Infernal Herald get some elementals and then wait, and then later play the Windswept page turner and play those cheaper elementals. You don't have to do this all on the same turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know not everyone is a big fan of minion type decks, but yeah, I like them. I always have, and it's nice when you get some powerful stuff to go with them.
We haven't talked about the weird card yet.
Yeah, I guess
we can talk about it quickly. So Titanographer Osk is a legendary mage card, 7 mana, 7/7, gains a random Titan ability in your hand that changes each turn. So for example, on a turn it might say choose a non-Titan minion, summon a copy of it with +2/+2, which comes from Aman'Thul. But it won't be like you can choose an Aman'Thul ability. It'll just be like a random Aman'Thul or Amethyst or whatever ability.
If you go to the page, which we have up on the stream or in the video right now, there's like 30 different versions of this card that all just have different text, because each one, it just gets one ability. And it's a 7-drop that you are going to have to wait until it does something good for you, and then change your entire turn plan to accommodate that 7-drop because you didn't know what it was going to be until the turn started.
And sometimes it's like cast 1 random mage secret. Like, great. Yeah. Like the Norganon ones aren't good. Now it is true that the ones from Sargeras that require having a portal, so you can have one that sends everything into the Twisting Nether, but the ones that are like imps summoned from your portal change, like those are not in the pool. And also the Hunter ones are not in the pool because those require you to have a weapon, which you probably don't. So, but that doesn't mean they're all good.
So it could have been worse, but they took away the non-choices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I can't wait to see what the arena bucket for this looks like.
Oh God. So, if you are aware of the existence of a druid card called Ulu, no, you're not, and you'll forget this exists just as quickly.
Sorry, Blister Guy. Blister Guy revealed it, for those who don't know what that reference was.
Yes.
And he had a very cute reveal video with Ulu too big. And that is all that I know about Ulu.
I think that's...
Ulu is too big for standard, apparently, is the problem.
I think that's the name. Yeah, it's not good, and neither will this be, because, as we've established previously, things where you don't know when they're going to be good end up just not being good.
Especially when you can't plan your turnaround when they're going to be good. Like, sometimes you have to wait for cards to be good, and that's okay. This one where it's just random every turn, and sometimes it's going to be good. Like, Chameleos is a card that I fought with people about way back when. And because you had to wait for it to be good, and then you had to change your whole turn, and nobody believed me, and then Chameleos saw 0 play, and I expect this will probably be similar. But it might be good in Arena, because, like, in Arena, any of those things would probably be fine for the most part. At least, even if you have to wait a turn or two, you can probably find a turn where it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Maybe. Like, I'm not even that up on it in Arena.
Look,
but
Frostlit Jaina is a pick in Arena for Mage, so...
You've got other options. All right. Well, we have a shaman set. There's kind of two themes here. We have a sort of menagerie theme and like a fire spells / elemental damage theme, which I am excited about.
And they do kind of overlap too. Like some
Yeah.
of the menagerie stuff goes into fire, some of the fire stuff goes in menagerie. You got peanut butter in my chocolate, like that sort of thing. So
I love the shaman set.
The shaman set's really cool.
And
we've
it's
got
not because I revealed some.
We've got 4 elementals that all each have another tag that's all different. We have an elemental murloc, an elemental mech, an elemental dragon, and an elemental beast. But we should probably start with the quest.
So you can still run City Chief Esho in that menagerie deck. Interestingly, even though it's a menagerie, even though it's going to end up being a menagerie deck.
That's true. So we should probably start with the quest, which was actually revealed in the announcement, but we didn't know that when we pre-recorded. So it is a Spirit of the Mountain quest. Play 7 minions of unique types. Reward Ashelon. Ashelon is a 5-mana 8/8 elemental beast. Battlecry. Adapt twice. For the rest of the game, give minions you play those adaptations. So adapt, if you weren't playing way back in the original Ungoro, it allows you to discover like 2 things. They're mostly bonus effects. They're not quite the same as bonus effects. Like one of them was like summon, like Death Rattle summon 2/1/1 plants, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
They're like little extra abilities that you could add to a minion. This is the only like adapt thing that we've seen in this set. So it's not like they're bringing adapt back exactly, but they're calling it back a little bit with this quest. So this could be potentially pretty powerful because like you could give everything that you play for the rest of the game, not summon, but play. Like Divine Shield and Death Rattle summon some little dudes. Or
So there's +3 attack, I think +3 health, +1/+1. The summon plants that you talked about, Divine Shield, Elusive, End of List. Charge was not an adapt.
Wind Fury was the adapt. I was trying to figure out what it was that was making it was making the Flappy Bird kill people in arena.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so you could give everything Wind Fury, Elusive, and make your opponent miserable. Yeah.
Yes.
So you do have to play 7 minions of unique types, but that could, depending, you have to draw all of those. So it's hard to say how quickly this will be completed, and you have to play them. You can't summon them.
Yeah.
However, it could be pretty powerful once you complete it.
And I think there's a way to build. I mean, obviously you need different minion types, but I think there's a way to do it where you're like, okay, well, I've got Alec here who will super capitalize on if I roll +3 attack, +1/+1. I think how adapt used to work was you can roll the same thing twice if you get multiple adapts. I don't know if that's how this will work.
You can roll the buffs more than once. If you get a keyword, I don't think it offers it to you again.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So like you could give everything +6 attack, and then Alec here swings for 18. Seems okay. But then, obviously that may not be as good for your 2/1s, right? I mean, I guess all your 2/1s are 8/1s then.
That seems okay.
That seems okay. I'm curious, like, what will be sort of the optimal picks here, and whether you can like complete this fast enough if you are doing a mostly elementals and then with other minion types to be able to complete the quest. I'm not sure to what extent you're able to have an elemental quest deck that will qualify to play the neutral we talked about, the Esho.
Yeah.
And also these are discovers, so you can't necessarily rely on getting the adapts that you want every time. Right? So you're like you can build around Alec here getting +6 attack, but that's just not going to happen every game.
Oh no, I mean that's what I'm saying, right? It's like, well, you've got Alec here that's really good in that situation, but then you have other things that are like really good if you can give them, elusive and something else or whatever, right? Like
Yeah. I'm looking at elementals that have multiple types. So there's the 4 in this set. Cinderfin is an elemental Murloc. Volcanic Thrasher is an elemental beast. We've got Murloc Beast, Mech through Mechamized Magma, and Dragon through Slag Claw. There's another elemental beast, Flat Fire Plume Phoenix in the neutral set. There's another elemental dragon, Cloud Serpent, which says Battlecry, get a copy of another elemental or dragon in your hand. But those were both ones we already have. Then there's Adaptive Amalgam and Mutating Life Form will each count as something.
Yeah, and each one will count once each time, right? Because each one will count for another unique type that you haven't covered yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'd be hard to reliably get this quest off quickly and not have anything in there that's not an elemental.
Right.
That maybe you're either not running that neutral legendary or you just hope you draw it first.
I guess if you have a way to like reliably redraw the amalgam, that might be something. I don't know if there is, but like, because you can just keep playing the amalgam and then shuffling it back in, and then if you have a way to get that back out, that might be a way you could get this done.
I mean, so there's the spells, which we haven't talked about yet. These new spells, the Flight of the Firehawk, fire spell, draw 2 minions of different minion types, give them +2/+2, and then Mountain Map, discover a minion with a type you have not played. If you play it this turn, also pick one of the others. So
that's key, yeah.
That specifically
you need that.
Could be a way that even a deck that is mostly elementals could complete the quest is with this spell. We must always remember, though, quests are a spot in your hand, and they are theoretically your turn 1, because you want, if you're an aggressive thing, like you want to play something turn 1, and so aggressive decks have the biggest conflict there. Maybe there's a world where you're like, okay, I've got to get on board. I'm going to play this elemental because I know everything's an elemental, and then you play the quest later. I mean, that was always an issue that like the Hunter quest had, because you had to play a deck of 1-drops where you couldn't play one of them on turn 1.
But I guess the way you would look at this is like Rainbow Mage, right? Because I mean that's basically what we're doing is Rainbow Mage at this point, because because Rainbow Mage also didn't have like holy spells, at least in the beginning. It didn't have holy spells or nature or shadow. Well, I guess it had shadow, but it didn't, or fell or whatever, right? Like you would play some of the other things that would let you discover from a spell school you hadn't played yet in order to get access to those spell schools. And I think this is kind of the same idea. You're going to play a bunch of things. You could build it in a way that you get the +2/+2 buff and then just rely on this to get everything else along with amalgams, and you should be okay.
Yeah.
And this is not necessarily a snowball elemental deck where you need to play a 1-drop on 1 and a 2-drop on 2. Like, there's a lot of burst damage in this deck.
For sure.
So Volcanic Thrasher, Battlecry, draw a fire spell, Kindred, give it spell damage +2. And then like Lava Flow is a 3-mana fire spell, deal 2 damage to the lowest health enemy 3 times. So obviously if you give that spell damage, that's really good.
12. Just casual, deal
just
12.
Casual. And we have a big package with these Sizzling Cinders. So Sizzling Cinder is a collectible neutral card. It's a 1-mana 2/1 elemental with Death Rattle, deal 2 damage, randomly split among all enemies. So that can go in any deck, but the Shaman has ways to get them. So Cinderfin is a 2-mana 1/2 elemental Murloc with Death Rattles. You summon one. Or Slag Claw is a 5-mana 3/4 elemental dragon that Battlecry summons 2, and Kindred also triggers all Sizzling Cinders on the board's Death Rattle.
That's gonna be nice.
Sizzling Swarm is a 6-mana fire spell that says deal 3 damage, summon that many 2/1 Sizzling Cinders. But all of this gets better when you consider Brawlma Searstone, a 3-mana 1/5 legendary. Your elementals deal 1 extra damage. I assume that is like each tick. So your Sizzling Cinders deal 4 now.
Yep.
Each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real spooky. I mean, to some extent, thank goodness the Shaman doesn't have a whirlwind, because then you would like Brawlma with a bunch of Sizzling Cinders out and just like kill your own board. And make them all go face. But yeah, this looks very powerful to me.
Interesting, this is not an elemental, so if you do want to play City Chief Esho, you have to leave this out, or you have to draw this first.
I'll
I
take
think
that
you
trade.
just draw it first. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or you
that's-
just
which is
This
fine.
is just better than Esho. Yeah.
I
It
think
is.
it is.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, because you have those Sizzling Cinders, you don't necessarily even need, like, you can have a lot of things in your deck that are not elementals, but that are like fire spells. You just have enough of them to have the Sizzling Cinders, and then, also the things that summon the Sizzling Cinders are also elementals and also deal 1 extra damage, just like for funsies. We also do more damage.
I mean, I think the Brahma Slag Claw sort of 1-2 punch is going to be ending many games, right? Because
Yeah.
you play Brahma and then you Slag Claw, just, when you have 8 mana and a couple of Sizzling Cinders stick, and then it will trigger the death rattles of the 2 that it summons, and then any additional ones you have, each of them do their 2 shots, except those 2 shots, instead of doing 1 each or 2 each, right? Like it just is quite a lot of damage. And then the other thing that's going to kill a lot of people is Volcanic Thrasher into Lava Flow.
Yeah. And you know what'll be really good with Brahma is either Elusive or Wind Fury adapting all of your minions. Either giving Brahma Elusive or giving all of your elementals Wind Fury. Those both seem real good.
Yeah. So you don't know again if it ends up being worth it. I mean, it'll certainly be fun to try the quest in this deck.
Wait,
but I
guys,
like
we
that
do
it's
have a
possible.
Whirlwind.
We do have
do.
a Whirlwind?
Wave Pool Thrasher is a neutral elemental that says Battlecry, give all other minions -1/-1.
Hilarious. Okay, cool.
Okay, we did it.
Sorry that I interrupted you. I was just very excited
No,
about that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did not catch that one.
It's a card that has been in since Perils that everyone forgot existed, but I was looking at the neutral elementals and I went, wait
Okay.
a minute.
Oh, it's even an elemental. Sure.
It
Why
is
not?
an elemental.
Wait, it costs 3 or 4?
4.
Okay. I do think that's probably expensive enough that it's not going to be worth it, but who knows?
Yeah.
It is expensive. It's not like a 1 mana whirlwind or a 2 mana whirlwind. We could, like, all of the asteroid things are elementals. I don't think we're doing both of those in one deck, but like we could.
I guess.
Yeah, but the asteroids aren't going to get affected by Brahma if that's something that we're trying to do,
Right.
because the asteroids are spells in their own right.
And they're not fire either.
There's a world, I guess, where you run just one of that elemental as a sort of, hey, I can throw Brahma down, attack with all my Sizzling Cinders, and then, kill them all for that last bit of burst. But I don't know if that'll end up being in there or not. It's interesting to think about.
Yeah. It is an option. There's a lot of elementals that haven't really seen play that are interesting as options. Cloud Serpent giving you a copy of an elemental or dragon in your hand could be interesting. It's hard to aim in this deck because we have a lot of elementals, but Blob of Tar just helps you live until you get a big burst if we're doing more of that.
My beautiful blobby boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Your beautiful blobby boy is an elemental.
Gosh, It just occurred to me. I mean, copy Brahma with the Elise location.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say, well, she's not an elemental, but yeah, you can with the Elise location. You sure can.
That's gross.
Yeah.
And
also, just keep in mind that these are 3 more fire spells for Fyrak, who also might go in this deck because he's a dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, or just in general, that's something to keep in mind of, like, the Fyrak pool is getting a little bit bigger because of these, and those are generally good spells.
That's true.
I mean, Flight of the Firehawk, whatever. It's another draw spell that you probably don't need in Fyrak, but like deal 2 damage to the lowest health enemy 3 times, or deal 3 damage, summon that many cinders. Those are both good things that you want in a Fyrak.
Yeah.
In general.
So, and they go face.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to try this out. And I feel like it's the type of minion type deck that isn't, I'm often happy playing snowball decks, but they don't tend to be popular. And this doesn't feel like a snowball deck. This feels like there's a lot going on with over-the-top damage, but it still does reward you for having a board. So I think this could be interesting. I'm looking forward to experimenting with it.
It's not like the elemental decks that we've had in the past, which are like 26 minions and like 4 spells. It's more just rewarding you for it's giving you like a deck building restriction to some extent by incentivizing you to play more elementals, but not necessarily only elementals in the deck, which is also interesting.
Yeah. Because maybe, Spirit of the Mountain might end up being more important than having too many elementals, so you just like play some other minions, and that makes the deck building more interesting. I think this is an interesting set. And
yeah, there's also Nerdy Jeffrey is also pointing out that you could also just play Wild Pyromancer, and Wild Pyromancer is an undead also, which is another minion type.
Yes. You do have to play a spell with that.
You'd have to play a spell with it in order to kill things, but it also, you have Mountain Vamp, which costs 1, and you probably will just get it some percentage of the time, but also it's also something you might want to run this deck just because it's undead, and none of the elementals that have dual types are going to cover undead anyway, so you might just want to run it for that reason, and then just to tick up the quest, and also maybe to blow up your cinders.
Yeah, like I could see a world where you go Pyro, Mountain Map, as in a pinch.
It's not Pyro Poison Breath, but it'll do.
Wow.
We can play some spells in this deck, right? Like it's not like you have to play. It's not the elemental shaman we got last, where you have to play it every single turn because the legendary depends on how many turns in a row you played an elemental. Like this is not like that.
Torga is great for this deck, right?
Oh yeah,
because you get to draw one of your volcanic thrashers. I mean, it's almost like this weird draw chain where it's like, okay, you get an undead and beast that draws you a volcanic thrasher that draws you a sizzling swarm or a lava flow with +2 spell damage.
Or you get Slag Claw, which you're not unhappy about either.
Right, or Slag Claw. Right, yeah. I mean, look, even better to have more than one target. Yeah, I think that's yeah. I think the Shaman deck is looking both like pretty good and also pretty interesting and dynamic, right? Which has generally been a complaint of minion type decks, is that they're just linear, curve stone, not interesting. I don't think that's true here.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, speaking of killing our opponent, Druid has mostly a sort of go wide. We are doing swarm Druid things, token Druid things. I am excited about that. That's unsurprisingly a type of Druid that I enjoy. So starting with the quest, Restore the Wild, which says, fill your board on 3 of your turns, reward the Everbloom. The Everbloom is a 3-mana 2/5 weapon that says, after your hero attacks, give your minions +2/+2. Then we have a lot of support to get tokens in order to fill your board, and then you have potentially like 5 Savage Roars. You just have a Savage Roar every turn once you complete this quest. That also gives them health, making it harder to remove them. So, seems like a pretty good reward. Now, again, this is an aggressive deck with a quest that takes up something in the mulligan.
Yeah.
That takes up your turn 1, so do keep that in mind.
That's usually where these things start to fall off, right? Is that when you have a quest that is aggressive, it is very hard to justify giving up a spot in your mulligan, especially when you're on the play, because you generally need to get going and stay going. And if you draw poorly, losing one of those spots is going to be real rough.
We do have a draw spell that draws 4 things, but it costs 5 mana. Hybridization, draw 1, 2, 3, and 4 cost minion. Kindred, they cost 1 less. You do get some of that tempo back the next turn, but it is 5 mana. However, in this kind of deck, you do need refill. Some of the things that summon tokens: Ravenous Flock, 2-mana spell at the start of your next turn, summon 3 2/1 hatchlings. They're just 2/1s. They don't have any keywords, but you get 3 of them.
But they don't have rush or anything. So the next turn they're gonna be sitting there and not attacking, and then the following turn you get to attack with them.
But you can go turn 2 this, turn 3 play a buff spell.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's a trade-off there, but it is also, it's going to be fast and slow at the same time.
Something that's sort of meant to curve into this would be Hatchery Helper, which is a 3-mana 2/3 with Battle Cry. Give your other minions with 2 or less attack +1/+2 and taunt.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's a good curve.
Talk about a 2/3, yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that kind of goes with that, Sky Screamer Eggs 3 mana 0/2 Death Rattle summon 4/2/1 hatchlings. That's not a perfect curve anymore, but it is a card that goes well with the Hatchery Helper as well. Because either the egg itself can be buffed, or once it gets popped, you have 4/2/1 hatchlings to buff.
Another card that goes well with the eggs is Life Cycle.
1 mana nature spell, destroy a minion, summon a random minion of the same cost to replace it. So that can pop your egg.
Or
it can also...
I think exactly what you're about to say.
Yes. It can also work with Eternal Blood Petal, which is a 4 mana 5/1 with Death Rattle summon a 0/1 Eternal Seedling, and Eternal Seedling says Death Rattle summon a 5/1 Eternal Blood Petal. So if you use that with the Life Cycle, then you end up with an extra 4-drop, and it still just turns into the other one. So
a lot of times you're going to use Life Cycle to get rid of an enemy taunt, but having like stuff to do with cards in your deck with Life Cycle is, good.
Yeah, and you're probably, I mean, you also could be running like Nerubian eggs and stuff like that.
Oh,
in
for
a deck
sure.
like this too.
Yeah.
So that would also be something that you could use to pop those. I'm once again lamenting the fact that we do not anymore have Shard of the Naru in standard, but that's my normal state of being, so we'll just kind of move on from that. Yeah.
Yeah. It is also a nature spell, Contiguity pointed out in the chat, for Imbue Druid. Could get rid of a taunt for Imbue Druid.
Yeah, I mean, how many minions are you playing in Imbue Druid? I mean, I guess you're playing one of each, kind of, because those are the imbued minions, so I guess you get those out of your deck. Maybe that's fine. I don't know.
No, I mean, the Life Cycle, you would play that to destroy their taunts.
Oh, Life Cycle. I thought you were talking about hybridization, but those are both nature spells. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's true. They are both nature spells.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if we have a 1, 2, 3, and 4, then maybe we play hybridization. But I think Imbue Druid has other draw. But the Life Cycle is a nature spell. Trees, which is literally just TREEEEEES, 3 exclamation point. It's basically bees, but it's trees.
Yes.
Yep. 5 mana nature spell, choose a minion, summon 4/2/2 treants that attack it. So bees, but they're trees. That's a nature spell too. I assume that if you fill your board with this, and then they attack and die, it still counts to the quest, but I don't know that for sure.
I would also make that assumption, even that it would check before they attack and not after, but we'll find that out.
Yeah.
It seems like the kind of thing they would change if it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that it might not be coded to work that way now, and it probably will be at least after a hotfix or so.
I don't know if the Swarm Druid does the Starship stuff, but the Starship stuff also cares about a full board in terms of the cosmic whatever arcane spell. So there's a world where you're running some of those location things that were used in that deck to make it easier to fill your board, because locations count, right? The fact that they take up a slot.
Yeah, it doesn't care if they're minions or not. It just cares that all 7 board slots are filled up. And then you also, if you're running the spell damage location, you could run whatever that is that summons the 2/5 beetles. That also helps a little bit, right?
You have a Mirdrasil because it's a Mirdrasil.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do Cosmic Phenomenon without doing the arcane stuff, honestly. It's just summon 3/2/3 elementals with taunt and give your minions +1/+1.
True, but that's very good with the Starship. Like the double your arcane spells, right? And when a Starship dies,
just run like the elusive one, because that's only like 1 anyway, right? Like you could probably just run the elusive one just to take up a spot on your board.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's actually some interesting ways to build this that are not just like Hearthstone. We'll have to see whether it's good enough. But there's some options here, I think.
Everbloom is terrifying.
Yes.
Everbloom is just so much. Now you can, if it becomes hugely terrible, it is a weapon. It can be vipered. So do keep that in mind.
That's a choice. Yeah.
But 5 turns of +2/+2 is a lot.
Especially on a deck that's planning to go super wide every turn.
Yeah. And again, yes, it's a weapon you can blow up. It's also a weapon that doesn't just get equipped, right? They get to choose when to play it and swing. So
wait, we can do like Greybow stuff potentially with the Life Cycle.
Oh, don't give them ideas. Oh, but I mean, also like So one interesting thing about a lot of these rewards being weapons is that a general play pattern against quest decks in the past was you would hold Dirty Rat for the turn that the quest was completed, right? And a weapon is not susceptible to that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about your quest reward getting dirty ratted for this. I mean, the shaman one still is a minion, and you do have to worry about that. But a lot of these are not falling victim to that, which is also interesting. Like if you complete the quest, you probably get to play it.
While we say that, there was a rules change that Cora confirmed on X, which is that if you complete a quest while your hand is full, they have coded it now that the reward just will show up in your hand when you have room for it, kind of like it does in Battlegrounds. So that is huge.
Whoa. What?
Yeah, that is a big deal. Yeah. Because that was always what felt bad, was like, oh, you went through and finished the quest, and then, oh no, now I had a full hand and now it's gone, and then you concede. So yeah, that's a big change. They have the technology from Battlegrounds now, because
Yeah.
Battlegrounds, those things will
Right.
kind of show up after your hand fills up. So
Yeah.
they're taking
Yeah.
those and bringing them into Constructed.
Yeah. Storm Druid looking strong.
Yeah, there's Grove Shaper. After you cast a nature spell, summon a 2/2 Treant with Death Rattle, get a copy of that spell. These are all like nature spells. That fills your board. And Greybout, I'm really sorry that I'm putting this idea into the universe, but with the Eternal thing, you're just never getting rid of that damn Death Rattle from Greybout.
Not without Hex.
Yeah. Yeah, also of note, you can Oaken summons Eternal Blood Petal. There's a world where, a different deck is just like, well, I want a decent thing to pull out with Oaken summons, and this is a 4/4 that I can just constantly use to trade into stuff. Although actually, I guess maybe that's less good. Maybe you do need a way to buff it, right? Because you can't actually do anything with the 0/1 unless you can find a way to kill it off again. So that's less good. But two other like quick hits here for Druid.
Yeah, we have a couple cards that care more about big minions. So Lo, the Living Legend, is a 7-mana 5/5 legendary minion with Battlecry. Your minions cost 5 this game. And Story of
Because
Barnabas.
Druid needs the help.
Story of Barnabas is 2-mana, draw a minion. If it has 5 or more attack, give it +5 health and gain 5 armor. And the flavor text here is, once there was a giant dinosaur. He was so giant that everyone died. The end.
The art is delightful also. It's like a pinata dinosaur. It's fantastic.
I also love that that's exactly how little kids tell stories. Like
Yep.
So if you like Aviana Druid, here's another targeted draw a minion spell for Druid that will also give you 5 armor and give the Aviana 5 health.
You could get a 5/5 Eternal Blood Petal.
You could.
That's probably not the use case.
No, I think the use case is like draw Lo, draw Aviana, draw Aulonius. Yeah. I think it will be sort of very specific uses, but quite good in those uses. And then Lo is just going to break the game at some point. I don't see a world where Druids ramping into Lo does not result in absurdities. Ceaseless. Does Ceaseless immediately cost 0 or cost 5? I guess I don't know.
Oh God, I don't even want to. No. We don't have another hour to figure that out.
And then of course, being able to, you can Lo, and then maybe you're a deck that runs Ysera, right? You get to play Ysera for 5, she refreshes for 3. Like, there's not the same kind of stuff as the Murmur Shaman, but I'm sure they'll come up with something. This is just being able to discount that much mana is going to do stupid things for Druid. I've seen this film before.
This is the one deck that will want to low roll.
How do you mean?
Because his name is Lo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, moving on.
The jokes are always better when you get to explain them. Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to highlight one thing that I missed in chat back from Shaman. Curator draws like everything in the Shaman deck. because it's like
Oh yeah,
That's
a mech
true.
elemental, a dragon
Sure he
elemental, a
does.
murloc elemental.
That's
Yep.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, lastly, we have Demon Hunter, where we have this kind of interesting deal exactly 2 damage theme that goes with the quest. So the quest is Unleash the Colossus. Deal exactly 2 damage to an enemy on your turn 15 times. Reward Garishi Colossus. Garishi Colossus is a 5-mana 8/8 minion with Battle Cry. For the rest of the game, whenever you deal exactly 2 damage to an enemy, deal 2 more. Now, it's important to note 15 times is a lot of times. However, if you get an AoE like Hot Coals, which does 2 damage on its first passive damage, every minion that it hits counts as a tick towards the 15 times. So if they have a full board, you're hitting 7 minions plus their face, that is 7 ticks onto the 15 times.
Same thing with Nomelia. Nomelia is another one that you're probably going to run in this deck all the time. And also there's just a lot of things that they got that just make 2/1s.
Real quick, let me go over the things that already exist. Defiled Spear probably goes in here. 4-mana 2/3 weapon. After your hero attacks an enemy, deal your hero's attack damage to another random enemy. Obviously, we expect this in the context of you buff this up, but there's a world where you just play it and swing and intentionally do it for 2 because it'll be multiple instances of 2. There's also, if this probably becomes too many weapons because there's a weapon in like this set, but like Tusk Piercer plus hero power is 2. Chaos Strike is 2. Headhunt is deal 2.
Spirit of the Team gives you 2 attack. If you don't hero power, that's 2.
Exactly. There's, I don't think we're doing Fellfire Blaze, but that would be another way where like you activate Fellfire Blaze and it's 2 damage AoE, maybe if you're not wanting to run the Priest Tourist, but also if you run the Priest Tourist, you get Nightshade Tea in addition to the Hot Coals that you mentioned. So
and even Brain Masseuse has 2 attack.
Yeah. And there's also the mode that nobody ever picks on Wyvern Slumber, which is not summon 2 dormant dread seeds, but deal 2 damage to all minions. Right? So that's another 2 damage AoE that will also proc multiple times.
Or if they don't have a board, you have another thing you can do with it.
Yeah. And if you want to run Zerg, there's also Lurker, which nobody's ever played, which is a 4-mana 2/6. After a friendly minion attacks, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, or 2 if your minion is a Zerg. I don't think we're gonna have room for Zerg and all the other stuff in that deck, but if you want to, go nuts.
But yeah, I mean, I think just like you tour for Hot Coals, Brain Masseuse, Nightshade Tea. Actually, holy smokes, this is insane. Wait, does the quest?
That's 3 in 1, right?
Okay, deal exactly 2 damage to an enemy, thank God. Because otherwise, Nightshade Tea, every use does 2 damage to a minion and 2 damage to yourself. And if that counted...
But if you have Arana...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, which you do, because it's the tourist.
Yeah. I mean, you have to have it in the deck, yeah.
One thing on the Nightshade Tea, once you complete the quest, it won't do 2 extra damage to your face. It'll just do 2 extra damage to the enemy.
Right.
Because it says deals like 2 extra, like 2 enemies. So it can't backfire on you that way.
But also doesn't get turbocharged uses for hitting you, which is good.
Which is good. Yeah. And then, of course, as we mentioned, there are a bunch of new cards that will help you deal 2 damage. Weapon that we mentioned, 3 mana, 2/2 weapon, Insect Claw. After your hero attacks, summon a 2/1 grub with Rush. So that's your hero attacking is 2 damage, and then the 2/1 grub with Rush is another 2 damage. Garishi Wasp. So there's a uncollectible card called Garishi Stinger, which is a 1 mana spell that deals 2 damage and summons a 2/1 grub with Rush. So you can get that through a card called Infestation that just gives you 2 of them into your hand for 2 mana. Or Garishi Wasps is a 6 mana 2/8 that whenever it takes damage, you get one of those stingers. So I guess you run that like with Immolation Aura, maybe.
And each one of those is going to be 2 ticks, right? Because it's the 2 damage from the spell and then the 2 damage from the Rusher.
Correct.
Or after the quest reward, it's like each part of that is 4 damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Garishi Tunneler is a 3-mana 2/4 beast with stealth. After this attacks, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. So that's another 2 ticks or 8 damage if the quest is already completed. So all of these are beasts, by the way, which matters for Silithid Queen, 5-mana 5/2 beast with Rush, and Kindred, give your hero +5 attack this turn. So that could be a decent chunk of damage. We'll have to play with this to see how fast you actually complete it, but because at first 15 seems like a lot of times, but looking through how many different ways you can deal 2 damage, it might be it might be a lot of damage.
I think against other minion decks, it will be astonishingly fast, and against the decks that would, stand to be hurt considerably by this, it will go a little slower because they don't necessarily have things to be rushed into. But the amount of rush, the amount of like ticks you can get from like hot coals or Nightshade Tea, like
Wyvern Slumber is the 2.
Yeah,
I don't even know if that
AOE.
makes the cut, honestly, because
I don't know if it makes the cut.
Hits your minions too.
I the only thing I do worry about is this is one of those decks where your opponent is incentivized to not play minions, and those decks tend to not stay around very long.
I mean, but if you don't play minions, then the 2/1 rushers, then you have to have a different way to clear the 2/1 rushers, or they're just going to deal that damage to your face. But I do see your point on that. This could definitely add up.
Do asteroids count?
I don't see why they wouldn't.
I mean, I don't know that we go...
As long as it's happening on your turn. As long as your opponent's not making you draw on their turn, then yeah.
Oh man, I forgot to mark which game it was where there was a lethal because the opponent killed a Thalnos, and so they died. Eruptions drawn at start of a turn killed the opponent's Thalnos, which then drew asteroids to kill the player whose turn it was. It was silly. Anyway,
dear.
I don't know if we go so far as to run Moonstone Mauler. I genuinely think there's just so many ways to trigger this that you wouldn't need to or be enticed to, and you're not necessarily.
But it is a 2/2 that puts 3 things in your deck that deal 2 damage, so maybe you do.
It sure is. There's also Fog Sail Freebooter, which is a 2-mana 2/2 battle cry. If you have a weapon equipped, deal 2 damage.
As a minion deck, you're never keeping a board against this deck because they have so much rush.
Yeah.
That's a little scary.
Yep.
Demon Hunter also has a few cards, or a couple cards that we could title this in the show notes, Minion Type Hate. So Fumigate is a 2-mana fell spell that says deal 3 damage to a minion and all others of the same minion type. And Bug Squasher is a 4-mana 5/3 battle cry, deal 6 damage to an enemy minion with a minion type.
Yeah.
Meta dependent, but could be good. Fumigate is a 2-mana deal 3 that can have upside, so it's not totally terrible if they only have 1. But a lot of decks would have multiple minions of the same minion type.
Fumigate looks really good.
Yeah, and the one you're targeting doesn't necessarily have to have a minion type, which is important. So it's not dead if your opponent isn't playing minions with a minion type.
2-mana deal 3, and sometimes 2-mana wipe the board of your opponent.
Seems good.
Seems good. We have Hive Map, which is a little random here, unless we're playing that fell elemental from the mini set. Hive Map is a 1-mana spell. Discover a fell spell. If you play it this turn, also pick one of the others.
We are going to keep putting fell support in until eventually it works, I guess. I don't...
Yeah, until...
I don't know what we're doing with fell.
Until next year when Jace is back in core.
Yeah, Mad at Arms is waiting for Fell Warlock to come back to Hearthstone. So maybe that's going to do it. But, I mean, there aren't that many fell spells in Demon Hunter right now. The pool is pretty small. There's only 9 of them. So... I mean, they're not bad. Immolation Aura, Fumigate's 1, Demonic Deal, which is deal 4 damage to a minion, put a random demon that costs 5 or more on top of your deck, which is probably one of the hits you don't want, but it's got lifesteal. Workshop Mishap is deal 5 damage to a minion, excess damages both neighbors, Outcast gain lifesteal. You've got I-Beam, you've got Chaos Strike, you got Warp Drive, which is draw 2 cards. You're building a starship that costs 2 less, which is really just going to be 3 mana, draw 2 most of the time, but it's fine.
I mean, if
You
you're
have
playing a
yeah.
Starship deck in Demon Hunter, if we ever get a Starship deck, hopefully that's not Armor DH, then maybe you play this just to get more Warp Drives, potentially.
Yeah.
Sigil of Cinder at the start of your next turn, deal 6 damage, randomly split among all enemies. That's a 2-mana spell.
Yeah, and Sigil Skydiving is fine, right? I mean, that's a card that is played occasionally. So, I mean, it's more played in a Pirate DH, which we don't really have right now, but you could just run it and get some 1/1s. It's fine. I guess it's played in the Ball Hog list occasionally. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, you have lots of options is the point here.
It's not a bad card. It's just weird.
Okay. All right.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
But the weirdest card is not this.
No.
Entomologist
Toru is a Demon Hunter legendary, 9-mana 7/7, battle cry. Put each minion in your hand into 0/1 jars that cost 1. So they become 1 cost 0/1 jars in your hand, still not on the board. Break them to release the minions. So you have to play the jar, kill the jar, then you get the minion.
I assumed that the jars were put into play. This does make more sense, but still, it's 9 mana. Put everything in a jar, and then I guess like run them out with an AOE.
I guess. I mean, you have Immolation Aura, which you're probably running in that deck.
Oh,
right.
Most
definitely. Just to start with.
Look, this is a combo enabler. This is I have these minions whose mana costs are greater than I could ever normally play them in a turn.
I mean, it's Illidari Inquisitors that you're putting in here. Like, almost certainly, right? Like,
sure.
You just do that. You play 2 mana for these, 2 mana for Immolation Aura, 1 mana to swing, and then you deal 17 to your opponent's face. Like, that's
you could also
enough.
have Briarspawn Drake.
That came to mind.
6/7 that summons another 6/7.
I mean, why not both, right? Like, if you're doing that, that's probably what you're probably just going to put all those things in.
So, how does that 10 cost 6/7 interact with Cliff Dive again?
I think it does work now.
Okay.
Like,
it
part
works
of the
way you
question
want it
is
to
like,
now.
why this over Cliff Dive? Or are you doing both?
Oh, I think
guess
it's
you would do both.
Yeah, I think it's like you Cliff Dive, you try and make sure that the stuff doesn't die, and then you also get to entomologist things into play later on. It's like it is we Cliff Dived and that didn't kill you, and then now later we get to just get the stuff in play all at once with Toru.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out, and I like misread this card like 3 different ways while I was trying to figure it out, and eventually realized this probably doesn't work. But do you guys remember the Octosari and then the Tourist into Priest combo?
Yes.
So I was like, can we cheat out, like play the Octosari and then also have the Tourist in a jug? But the problem is, how do you kill the Octosari without also killing the Tourist? See
Cubicle.
what I mean? Cubicle, but Cubicle's also in a jar if you do this.
Well, yeah, but you just, so you play this as the setup. Then you have 3 jars. You have Cubicle, you have Octosari, you have the Priest Tourist.
Yeah.
You Immolation Aura, so that's 5 mana, which it summons them all, right?
But Cubicle
I see
you
what
would
you're
need
saying.
to play from your hand,
Cubicle is the battle cry, right?
Right.
So it doesn't happen.
You don't want it to get summoned. You don't want it to be in a jar.
Yeah.
I guess that's where it gets. So you need a spell to kill Octosari.
See, if this was in Priest and we had Light Bomb, we would be like in business.
Well, Light Bomb's still pretty expensive.
Yeah, but the jars cost 1.
The Druid one that pays 1, replace it with a minion of the same cost would be pretty good. But
but we are in Demon Hunter.
Well, we will save that for theory crafting to try to figure that out.
We will leave
we are already way deep into this episode.
There has got to be a way to do that. Like I've got to imagine.
Yeah, I mean, now this thing, you do have to be able to survive playing this like on 9 and doing nothing else to the board and not die.
Oh,
so
yeah, of course.
I mean, you're almost certainly running Ysera in this deck too, so you might not have to play this and
do nothing.
Probably figure out. You can probably get it to a point where you can do it all in one turn if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we will leave this as an exercise to the reader. or the listener in this case, or the watcher.
Or viewer.
Viewer if you're on YouTube. So leave us a comment with how we've done this.
What's your favorite way to break Entomologist Toru? Leave it in the comments. There you go.
Someone in the Discord was saying we should just wait for Clark to break this.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
That would be, that'd be the way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to happen in theory crafting. It's going to ruin someone's day.
It'll take it. We will find out with about an hour into theory crafting how this is broken. And then this will be the deck that everybody's scared of on day one, and then we will never see it again.
I feel like there's a good chance of that. All parts of it. All right. Well, on that strange note, that is all of the packages that have been revealed. There were a couple other cards that were revealed that we didn't talk about from other classes, but we're not going to talk about them until we have the full sets for them, because this is already a long episode.
Yeah. So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com, where you can also find our content info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. And join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.concede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Blue Sky at CoinConcede. And if you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. So, quick Coin Concedes. I'm going to coin concede to TJ and Derek for putting on a great show with us over the weekend for the first Masters Tour. Also to the production crew, which I'm blanking on the name of this organization, but might be Geeks Plus. That sounds right. They did a fantastic job, and yeah, like I said earlier, you would never know that this was their first time running a Hearthstone show.
Well, I'm going to coin concede to you, Edel, because I had to edit last week, and boy howdy, I don't want to do that every week. So all the respect to you for putting up with that every week, and I'm glad that I only have to do it I guess now it's going to be twice every competitive season. But yes. I all the appreciation to you, because that 1 week was more than enough.
Yes. I will coin concede to all of the casters, including Edel, for just making the Masters Tour really fun to watch, really help explaining what was going on. In the particularly good game with Maxi versus Suni, I think with the Mill Warlock versus the Starship DK, we kind of all realized together what was going on with the new Melia, and that was actually in a sense more fun. So we're like, wait, he doesn't have his combo with the 2/3 mill card Murloc that I'm blanking on the name of, prize vendor. But never fear, could just take an Omelia with Bob and it's fine. And I always really enjoy watching the casting on this. And as I've said before on the show, before I really got into the competitive online community, it was tournaments and casting that started to give me a sense of high level play, what the meta looks like, what concepts are like, even just like tempo and card advantage, because I wasn't a card gamer really before Hearthstone. So it's a great way to learn, to watch those. Plus it's just entertaining. So the VODs are worth going back to.
All right, so that's going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and don't bug out. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend.